This is Isabelle Litzler. So in today's topic, career changing, I will give you 3 tips on how to do this. But before I get started, I want to mention for people who are trying to enter Switzerland, so expats who are newcomers, you already have a lot of things to worry about if you watch my videos, work permits, languages, expertise, etc. So it's going to be tough to be a career changer when you're entering a country like Switzerland because you won't have that credibility. So, even reshuffling the resume, trying to make some things out of it to convince is not going to be enough. So maybe in a country where they're a little bit more flexible about transferring skills, you could do this transition without a lot of trouble. But in Switzerland, if you don't have a background record in the field, it's going to be tough to convince. You will have to do a whole career transition and changing careers, which I will explain in a minute, but it's not going to be applicable until you're in Switzerland and you have enough experience in the field that you're in rather than trying to do too many things at once. So if you're trying to enter, stick with entering, very simple, go with what you know, get your work permit, get yourself settled, and then you worry about changing careers. That's my recommendation. Now, for those of you who are already in Switzerland and you have a background record, but you're just a little bit getting to a stage where you want something different, you want to change careers, you want to change fields, get a challenge, etc., then my 3 recommendations will be more for you. So the first thing you need to do as a career changer is that you need to look at the market. So you need to say, okay, what is the market needing right now? What are some of the top jobs? So I've done a whole video also about the market trends. So it's easy to find. I will also link it below. So look at the jobs that are actually hot at the moment and see if that fits into your career change. If you're going to change for something that's not really in demand, I would say you're probably going to invest a lot of time and effort and then be disappointed. So really the market is the number one thing, is assess the market, get feedback from individuals. So that's my number 2 recommendation, is get feedback. So before you jump into something, try to do job shadowing, which is not necessarily something you find easily. But with clients, I was able to have them work with, for example, people in my network, where I said, go ask this person if you can maybe watch them for a half day. So professions like teachers, for example, I don't think it would be a big deal if you ask someone that you know, of course. So you need to have, that's why it's more for people already in Switzerland and they have working relationships with a network already. So you need to be here where you meet with someone maybe you've known for a while who's teaching and ask them to shadow them for half a day, or someone who's working in an office. Maybe you can spend some time after lunch or something like that. Of course, it takes a little bit of okay from management team and organization, but it's a way to see if you actually like a profession. Now, for people working in universities or training institutes, I would really encourage you maybe to think about that in your programs, to have a simulation part. So it's hard for people to really imagine a career or imagine a field or a program until they're actually doing the job. So you can tell a lot about, this is what electrical engineering is about, and you can show them a program. Of course, you have internships at the end of a program, but I would say, do you really want to know at the time of internship it's not the right job for you, or do you want to know it in advance? I think it'd be a little bit of a pity, and that's what we see now. People get to the internship stage, maybe the first job stage, and they realize, wow, I've made a big mistake. So I would think if you're a training or education institution, that you would have those potential assessments or simulations, maybe during the open doors or something like that, where potential students could have the opportunity to be in the companies or in the shadowing people in those industries, where they could see if it's something that they like. So I'm really all for testing, and checking if something is right for you before rather than after. So again, because there's no such programs as far as I know in organizations, in schools or management education, or at least there's only the internship at the end, or maybe you have some meeting companies, but that's during the program, not before. I would encourage you to check with your network before you sign up for a program. So in other words, if you're maybe potentially interested in being a nurse, for example, but you don't really know so much except maybe what you see in documentation. Maybe you talk to a few nurses. But if you really want to know what it's about, maybe you find someone who's in nursing and you try to see if you can follow this person for half a day, or a day would be ideal, but try to see if you can come to this person to work and, just be there, see what they do, see what their atmosphere is like, etc. So maybe do this more on a non-formal basis. So again, it depends probably on the institution and their rules and so forth. But especially jobs like teaching and things like that, I think it would be easier to do this than in more formal environment. Also with the medical field, there would be some sanitation reasons and so forth that you might not be able to get in so easily. But for professions like teaching or even consulting, things like that, it's easy to spend some time with someone to see if you like the job. So that would be my recommendation number 2. So number 1 is, look at the market, look at the figures. Is this job really a job with a future? Will there be a need in 10 years' time? Try to think a little bit forward. Number 2 is try to do some job shadowing with networking contacts. Again, it doesn't have to be a whole day, but try to spend time basically with people who are doing your potential dream job. And number 3 is assess your motivation to make this career transition, especially if the salary is going lower. So sometimes people get to a stage where they say, I'd love to help or to do something maybe the not-for-profit, NGO, I can think from the top of my head. This is typical, where you worked for a big multinational, you were stressed all your life, you make good money, and you get to a stage where you want to do something a little bit more rewarding from a personal perspective. You want to help others. You want to be part of a bigger picture. So you think, I'd love to work for an NGO. But most of the time, NGOs don't have such high salaries. So one of the things that you will have to accept is that the salary will probably be lower. Again, the culture will be different. So if you're used to a high-performing, high-stress environment, which could have been a little bit hard, but then at the same time, most ambitious leaders, who are the people I work with, they thrive on that as well. They thrive on the challenge. They thrive on the newness of dealing with things they don't know yet, etc. So if you're used to that and you end up being at a comfortable spot somewhere where it's a little bit mellow and salaries are not too high and there's a lot of, different ways of handling things that you're not used to, you may be a little bit discouraged. So that's why you need to test that before again. Assess your motivation to make that move. Yeah, it'd be great to be part of a bigger picture, not-for-profit, NGO, etc. But think also about what you will not have anymore in your job. Would you be content with that? Basically, have you really thought it through? So that's what I work with clients on, is not just the small picture, but really looking at all angles and to see if it's something they really want. So, it's not just one thing, I want to make a change. And sometimes people do it very quickly as well. They go into something new to avoid the situation they're in. So it's more of an escape strategy than a real need to change careers. So I say this in my presentation, I believe, where, try to think about why you want that career change. So most of the time, people are just looking for maybe a different environment. Maybe it's a situation with the boss that they need to get away with. Maybe it's just a salary issue or an office issue, and it's not necessarily that they want to change career. So it's really diagnosing what is your pain point. And you may assess that you need a career change, but it may not be the case. And then you end up going to school, doing a new degree, the whole thing. And once you have this new job, you realize your pain is still there because it wasn't that to begin with. You're still not fulfilled. So that's why diagnosing why you want to make that change. Is it really the change you need, or is it something else? So that you don't go full-fledged for something that's going to cost you time, money, energy, effort. It's not a small thing to decide on. It's something you should really think about, weigh out all the options, etc., etc. So feel free to ask questions below. Are you looking into a career change right now? If you're watching this video, is that something you're interested in? Are you having difficulties with this career change? I will talk to you soon.